Welcome back to Human Resources for the People. It's a human capital revolution. Today we're going to be talking about the National Football League Player Association's allegations that there is collusion taking place in the Football League. It's a really interesting topic, and we'll talk about how it plays into human resources as a whole. So in March of last year, Deshaun Watson was signed by the Cleveland Browns. He got a fully guaranteed contract, which is unprecedented. And many of the owners thought that it was awful because it would make all of the negotiations with the players harder going forward. But it didn't happen that way. There were a whole lot of really high profile quarterbacks like Russell Wilson and Derek Carr that weren't able to get fully guaranteed contracts. And so it didn't really work out. I mean, in March 2022, it happened, but nothing came of it. There was no result. And the National Football League Players Association is saying that there's collusion afoot. And that's why they have this. Of course, the owners come back and say, no, Cleveland is just did a terrible deal. We didn't collude on anything. It's just the the Browns are a terribly run team, and as a Cowboys fan, I completely agree with them. I mean, we're a terribly run team too, but it's one of those things where it's very basic. It is completely possible that the owners did not collude; that they just simply saw how terrible of an idea, and we saw how terrible of an idea the Deshaun Watson trade was. So I don't. I think it's very suspect to think that they are colluding. But the National Football League Players Association has asked arbitrators, so it has moved to the arbitration stage, and they're looking to award damages and permit certain quarterbacks who have been adversely affected by the collusive agreement to terminate their current player contracts. So players who have signed under this collusion would then be able to open it up and be open to a better a better deal perhaps. I It sounds like unless they have some sort of documents, they have no proof. And again, this Browns contract was really terrible, and I would imagine that it scared everyone away after the fact. They really only have a couple, maybe one uh, uh, signing that happened shortly thereafter before the allegations about Deshaun Watson were made. And I think that really woke a lot of people up. So I really doubt that this is a situation where the owners colluded, but that's what we'll find out. And this is really interesting. Like I said, from a labor relations standpoint, you have all the aspect or all the different areas with respect to arbitration and labor agreements. Um, Obviously there is no guarantee that they have a guaranteed contract, a fully guaranteed contract. And so I really think that this is the NFLPA sort of grasping at straws, but we'll see. I think it's interesting, and I'll continue to follow it here on Human Resources for the People. If you like my content, if you're interested in what I have to say, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye, guys. The league memo quoted from the National Football League Player Association's pleading, which says that the expectation was that fully guaranteed contracts would now become the competition driven norm for the top players in the league, including quarterbacks. And that during the August 9th ownership meeting in 2021, that's when owners decided to work together and not do any further fully guaranteed salaries. And that's pretty interesting. And the way they did this, and this is where this plays into my background, and this is where it plays into my YouTube channel, is that they did this through a grievance process. And what happens during a grievance process is that the union alleges that the company, in this case the NFL, did something against the contract or against good labor practice, good bargaining labor practices, and as a result seek some sort of recompense. It's a way to go through the court system without actually going through an actual court. It's sanctioned by the National Labor Relations Board. Typically, the way it works is that the union and the company choose a arbitrator. Now, I don't know, some of the bigger unions and some of the bigger companies will have a arbitrator set aside, or a slate of arbitrators set aside that they can work off of every time. I would be curious to know whether or not the NFLPA just uses any set of arbitrators, because there is like, effectively, once a grievance has been filed and it ultimately is taken to arbitration, the the National Labor Relations Board gives a slate of arbitrators. But to back up a little bit, so once you file a grievance, they go through a step process where the company, probably mostly just the corporate lawyers from the NFL, as well as the NFL Players Association, meet in a step process where they sort of make their arguments. And if the league backs down and agrees with the union or something of that nature, then the union has won and the union will be successful. However, if not, if the employer does not back down and continues to support their initial stance, they will then uh, they will then go to the next step and the next step. I imagine that it's probably just a two-step process with the NFL. I don't know that for a fact, but I can't imagine in a regular private union, it's three steps. You typically go to like a frontline supervisor or something of that nature, try to resolve the difficulties, try to resolve the issues. Um, and then if you don't get anywhere, that's when you go to the next level. Um, I don't know the case with the National Football League, but that's the general idea. And then once you get to a certain level where the company and the union clearly can't agree, that's when you go to arbitration. And at arbitration, the union seeks some sort of recompense for the failure to comply with the contract.